All right. Well, welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Al Dente Live. I'm your host, Ryan, with, as always, Josh and Ummer. Gentlemen, happy Sunday. Good morning. How are you?
Great, thanks, Ryan.
Doing excellent, guys.
Good, good. Well, if you haven't tuned into the show before, we do some DFS lineups to start it, just in case you want to get some lineups done before those 10 a.m. kickoffs. So we kind of break those down, and then we go position by position after that with our hot starts, cold sits, and then we take some live questions. So yeah, we'll dive right in. We're gonna go right into our DFS brought to you by DraftKings lineup. If anyone watched last week, I did not partake. I'm gonna partake this week. So see if I can take these two gentlemen down. So I went very analytical, very mathematical, if you will, with my lineup. I went strictly based on matchups. So if you're on DraftKings, I have the graphic pulled up in front of everyone. But if you go through all the rankings, I literally have Philip Rivers playing the 28th passing defense. David Johnson, who has not been good this year, but he's playing against the 32nd rushing defense, and kind of so on and so forth. But so I like my matchups. Um, Duke Johnson Jr. had a good week last week, getting a lot of receptions, got in the end zone a couple times. Mari Cooper, second week with the Cowboys, so hopefully a little more acclimated. Hopefully he got in the end zone last week actually, but hopefully he'll get a little more target share. Mike Evans, I know if you read our fantasy stardom system article written by Josh, he kind of goes into Evans had a down week last week, but we fully expect him to bounce back. As he's looked good all year and getting back on the rapport with Ryan Fitzpatrick there. Thomas, it almost seemed like he was losing a little stock a little bit with Dez coming to town, and then just as fast as Dez came to town, he went out of town. So Thomas's stock is back up once again. Love the matchup. They're playing the 30th ranked passing defense, or I guess defensive back in the league right there. Same with Watson. That's why I have him as my tight end. I was wanting to save a little money there, so that's why I went with Watson at the tight end, and then Aaron Jones in my flex. And for me, the defense was going to be the Bills or the Jets. They're playing each other. That's going to be just a poop fest of a game. A lot of defense, very little offense. So the Jets were a cheaper option for me. Saved me about $200, so I was able to upgrade one of my receivers there. So that's my lineup. Strictly analytical. We'll see how it goes. I didn't really talk about Philip Rivers, but he's the model of consistency. Playing against a bad Raiders defense, so I expect him to have no less than two touchdowns. Hopefully a little more. My only fear with Rivers is that he won't be playing in the fourth quarter, but we'll hope he does. So well, there
Right.
you have it. There's mine. Ryan's Week 10 lineup. Lock it in. Um, I believe Ummer, you can go next.
Sounds good. That's a lineup that'll be hard to beat, but
Sure will. Damn
my
right.
roster my roster looks like this. I'm on the hype train, and it's not a homer play, but Nick Mullins versus the Giants. I like that play. Um, 72% completion percentage against the Raiders, three touchdowns. He looked a lot more efficient than C.J. Beathard, so I'm riding that train, and I'm sticking with him in this DFS lineup. As mentioned, the Raiders are playing the Chargers, so I like Melvin Gordon. I think he'll just go off on them and just look like the beast that we'll expect from him. My other running back, I like Jordan Howard versus the Lions. Steadily, he's been getting more of the targets and more of the touches in the Bears offense as opposed to Tariq Cohen. But I think both running backs should do well this week. But I like Jordan Howard more in the running game. Jumping into the receivers, I also like another Bear, Allen Robinson. Big reason I like Allen Robinson this week is that Darius Slay, starting cornerback for the Detroit Lions, is not playing today. So Allen Robinson, after coming off the groin injury, he should have a nice, easy matchup for him. I got Cooper Cup versus the Seahawks. Last time the Rams and the Seahawks played, Cooper Cup was the best fantasy performer out of the three receivers. So I like that trend to continue this week. My third receiver, I like Calvin Ridley versus the Browns. I think it's pretty obvious that Julio Jones will have a great game. Denzel Ward is questionable, so we'll see if he plays. If he doesn't play, then that's just more of a reason to start Falcons receivers. But this Atlanta offense is looking so much better compared to last season. Matt Ryan's in a better groove, and Calvin Ridley has been a rookie sensation for sure. So Calvin Ridley versus the Browns. Tight end, I got to pair him up with his quarterback. So George Kittle versus the Giants. He's the main go-to receiver in that offense, anyways. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up as the top three fantasy tight end, but when the season's all done. I mean, he's just been so dynamic, and even though other defenses know that he's their only receiving option, he's still getting it done. So I like George Kittle versus the Giants. In the flex, I'm repeating this one. I like Kenyon Drake. I think last week, as we mentioned, there was a bit of a field trouble in Miami, so we didn't see too much offense. But I like Kenyon Drake to come back against the Packers this week. Should be a pretty good game for him. And finally, I like the Patriots against the Titans as far as my defense is concerned. I know the Titans were able to surprise the Cowboys last week, but Patriots are not a team that you can surprise. They'll be prepared and they'll be able to stop Marcus Mariota and that offense. So that's my roster for this week.
All right. Good luck, sir.
Same to
Thanks,
you.
thanks, Summer. My lineup for this week. I'm still riding the train with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Going with him again. He's got a solid matchup against Washington, who earlier in the year seemed to have a very formidable defense, but they just got torched last week. And I think that continues this week again with Fitzpatrick. I don't think they have any run game to speak of, so they're going to have to keep chucking the ball. Fitzpatrick puts up points pretty much every single week, so I'm rolling with Fitzpatrick at quarterback. For running back, I'm gonna pay down a little bit at running back. I'm gonna agree with you, Ummer. I'm gonna go with Jordan Howard at running back, which is a little odd because it's a DraftKings is a full PPR format, and he hasn't been catching as many balls lately. But he scored 3 weeks in a row, and against Detroit defense that allows 5.1 yards per carry. I think this is another great week for Jordan Howard. Lock him in as a good cheap option on DraftKings. He's only, I believe, 4,700, so he's very cheap, and I think he has a good shot to score. I have Dion Lewis as my second running back against the Patriots. They're going to have to throw the ball. Dion Lewis is the pass catching running back. Even as of late, Dion Lewis is just the running back in general in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry's being faded out unless it's goal to go at the 1 or 2 yard line, and they just hand him the ball to pound it in. It's Dion Lewis all day for me, and I think he's going to get a lot of catches. DraftKings, being the PPR format, Dion Lewis, easy decision. He's just as cheap as Jordan Howard, 4,600. Great option at that price. For wide receivers, I'm also going to go Mike Evans. I believe Ryan had Evans.
Yes, sir.
And I think Evans is a solid choice. Paying down at running back lets me pay up a little bit for wide receiver. He had a down week last week, so I know some people might be a little worried, but he had 10 targets. It's not like Fitzpatrick wasn't looking for him. They just weren't quite on the same page. Everyone has a down week every now and then. I'm not worried about it. Lock in Evans for top production again this week. I'm also going to pay up for Keenan Allen this week against Oakland. Keenan Allen, last year he did the same thing. He started out real slow, and then in the second half of the season, he turned it on, and he finished as a top 5 wide receiver in PPR.
He killed it at the end of the season last year, I remember.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the same thing so far this year. Last week, I believe, was the first week back. They went on bye, and then the first week after the bye, just like last year, Keenan Allen blowing up. So I think they're in a good spot against the Oakland defense. I have a similar concern to Ryan with Phillip Rivers that it's possible in the second half they take their foot off the gas. In the fourth quarter, maybe they just run the ball. But I think early on, Keenan Allen will get a lot of targets, a lot of looks. Again, the PPR format, give me all the Keenan Allen. My third wide receiver, I'm going to go Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I hope I said his name right this week. And
I think you're getting good at his, man.
Got the hang of it towards the end of last week's episode.
Yeah, I'm either going to say it right or I'm just going to stop writing about him so I don't have to deal with it. I think he's a great option. Geronimo Allison's still out. Randall Cobb is expected to play, but he's banged up. Valdez-Scantling, he has double-digit PPR points 4 weeks in a row now, and 2 touchdowns during that period. So he's gaining chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. That's really important. Rodgers is a very timing-based quarterback, and when he starts to get on the page with his receivers, he starts to trust them. He gives them more difficult throws, and I think that's a huge deal for MVS. So lock in MVS as my wide receiver 3. For tight end, I'm going Zach Ertz. I believe Sean Lee is going to be out again. And for Dallas, that's a really bad thing in that over-the-middle zone where Ertz does most of his damage. Mm-hmm. So I think in this game, people are saying that the Eagles are going to wipe the floor with the Cowboys. I think it's going to be a little closer than people think. It's a divisional matchup, rivalry game. Both teams are going to step up to play. It's in prime time. I think this could be a sneaky, high-scoring game for both sides of the ball. So give me Zach Ertz. For flex, I'm going to go Aaron Jones. I don't think he gets punished for the fumble last week. I know some people are concerned about it because they stuck Jamal Williams in. After that, I'm hoping that Mike McCarthy just thinks about winning instead of thinking about being a tough guy coach, and they just go back to Aaron Jones like they should. Aaron Jones has a lot of talent. This is a great opportunity. He's also a cheap option. He's only 5,000 on DraftKings. So Aaron Jones in my flex, and similar to Ummer, I'm going to go with the Jets. I believe it was Ummer or Ryan. I can't remember
No,
who
it's
had the
Ryan.
Ryan. Okay,
Well, I went with
I'm going.
I went with the Bills, but I was talking about that poop fest of a game. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. That both defenses are great choices. They're either one. It should be a very low scoring game. Take the under. I'm going to go with the Jets though because I believe Matt Barkley is going to be playing at quarterback
He
for
sure is.
Buffalo.
Correct. That is
For
correct.
yeah, so it's supposed to be a windy day. I don't expect a lot of aerial assault during this game. So I think it's going to be a lot of running the ball. Neither team can throw it. Low score. I could see it end up being like 10-3 or something like that. That wouldn't shock me at all.
Do you,
So Jets defense.
do you know the over under? Is it like 9?
You know what? It would have to be 9 for me to consider not taking the under.
Yeah, right. If it's 10.5 or over, I'm going under all day. I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there you have it. There's the DFS lineups for Fantasy Al Dente, brought to you by DraftKings. I have posted them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So if you are watching the show and you want to look those over again, they are all at your disposal. So please head to one of those, check them out. Good luck. Hopefully you win a little coin, get a little cash for next week. Christmas is coming up. Time to go shopping, do all that. Great. Well, real quick, let's and you guys just jump in. I'm just gonna roll through a couple injuries really fast. Most of them are all expected. I don't think there was any shocking ones that I woke up to. But if you guys think of any, please jump in. But Sammy Watkins is out for the Chiefs. Obviously, we're just doing offensive guys since this is a fantasy show. Gronkowski out again. He has been a bit of a disappointment. Sonny Michel, though, is expected to play. Obviously, Des Bryant. If you don't know that, you've been living in a cave. He is done. AJ Green is out today, most likely for the next week, as well as he is nursing that what is it, the toe or the heel, something on his foot.
I believe it's a toe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leonard Fournette is fully back. I think we'll get into him later. I don't think any of us love him still, just with that crowded backfield, but he is a go. He will be dressing and playing. Couple more here. I think those are the main big ones. I don't know if you guys know of any off the top of your head.
I just got a quick tidbit. I know Josh brought this up about Marquez Valdez-Scantling being more involved with Geronimo Allison hurt. He is actually put on IR, so he's not going to play the rest of the regular season. So that really increases MVS's stock for the rest of the season, and possibly Equanimous St. Brown as well.
Yes. Brought him up last week. I want to see some production out of Equanimous.
Solid buy lows for sure.
Oh,
Exactly.
definitely. Especially in a dynasty, if you can get Equanimous, if he's available. Let's see. Ryan Grant, receiver for the Colts. He is expected to play today after the bye. Kerryon Johnson, running back for the Lions, also expected to play. David Njoku, tight end for the Browns, expected to play. And finally, Giovanni Bernard, who's missed the last month or so with that MCL sprain, he is expected to play as well. So maybe a little draft hurting for those Joe Mixon owners, but those are all the injury news I have at the moment. If I hear of any or find any, we will update you on that. But that being said, let's jump into our positional breakdown, and then finally we'll end the show with some questions, some live questions. But Earl, I'll start with you. Give me some hot quarterbacks you're loving this week, some cold quarterbacks you are stashing or putting away or dropping or just wanting nothing to do with.
Sounds good. So I think we already touched on it. Philip Rivers versus the Raiders. That's a almost instant start. If you have him and you're not starting him, you must have somebody else better, possibly Patrick Mahomes. But Philip Rivers against the Raiders. I mean, we saw what the Niners were able to do against the Raiders. I mean, the Chargers have so much of a better offense. So Rivers, instant start. Jared Goff versus the Seahawks. I know that's a divisional game, and last time they played, it was a very high scoring game. Jared Goff had an excellent game. I expect that to repeat this week. And you already know I like Nick Mullins this week against the Giants, so It is questionable with only one game of evidence that we have, but the way that he played in that game, he just looked a lot more comfortable behind the offensive line and under center compared to CJ Beathard. That I expect that confidence to continue, especially with the extra rest since they played on Thursday. Now they don't have to play until Monday. So Nick Mullins against the Giants for sure. Going into my sits, Matthew Stafford against the Bears. The Bears have such a good defense, and also losing Golden Tate, I think, may affect the Detroit passing offense. So I don't like Matthew Stafford that much this week. Um, because I like Jared Goff. I'm not too high on Russell Wilson versus the Rams. Currently, Russell Wilson's only averaging 199.2 passing yards per game over the last 5 games. So they're definitely not flinging the ball down the field. They're more relying on the running game and the defense. So I don't like Russell Wilson against the Rams this week. And I know he had a good game against the Cowboys, but like I said, I think the Patriots defense will step up. They'll game plan better. And so I don't like Marcus Mariota to have another fluke week this week.
Yeah. Russell Wilson. Yeah, that's always a. He's been he's been frustrating this year to say the least for me. It's up every time I start him. It's like that 9 point production. Every time I don't start him, it's that 18, 19, 20 point production. But hey.
No, and we always have this conversation where it's like it's hard to start these, former elite fantasy starters, but sometimes, given the matchup, if you have somebody else you can swap in, it's always better that you do that. So, in this
Yeah.
case, I think, yeah, even though as we mentioned, as I mentioned last time they played, it was a very high scoring game and Russell Wilson played well. I don't anticipate that happening today.
Yeah, and it is in LA. I mean, take that for what you will. Games in LA don't seem to be a home game for the LA teams, but
Yeah.
technically that is their home soil. So, Josh, over to you with some hot quarterbacks for you.
Thanks, Ryan. I just want to add to the Philip Rivers conversation. I know that both of you guys are high on Rivers this week. Rivers, I would like to mention that so far this year has not had a game where he's thrown less than 2 touchdowns or less than 200 yards passing. He's like the model of consistency. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a 4 point per passing touchdown league, right there, that's a minimum per touchdown league, 20 points. I mean, I know we want a little more than that out of our quarterbacks, but I mean that's the floor with Philip Rivers. He's put up every single week. So he's been a good start this year. He's a dark horse candidate for MVP in my opinion. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a shame that the Holmes and Drew Brees and Todd Gurley are putting up these crazy numbers because quietly Philip Rivers is just consistent as they come and also putting up great numbers. He's having one of the best years of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree with both of you guys on Philip Rivers. Um, Another quarterback I really like this week, I just want to add as a start. It may be obvious, but it's Matt Ryan. And the reason I bring him up is because it's obvious he's a start, but I would start him over anyone not named Mahomes this week. I would start him over Breeze. I would start him over Wentz. I would start him over Wilson, as we just talked about. Matt Ryan actually leads all quarterbacks in passing yards per game. Not Mahomes, not Breeze, not Rodgers. Matt Ryan. He's having a better statistical season than he did 2 years ago when he won. I bring up Mahomes again because Mahomes is just lighting it up that some people aren't realizing how good these other quarterbacks are playing.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Ryan, Philip Rivers, these guys are having amazing years. And this week, Ryan gets a fantastic matchup. I like him a lot. Start him over everyone unless you have Patrick Mahomes.
There you have it.
For sits,
Yeah, jump right
for
in.
sits, I agree. Yep, I agree with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford last week, first game without Golden Tate, threw for under 200 yards, no touchdown, was sacked 10 times. That was against a divisional opponent, the Vikings. This week, he gets another divisional matchup against a defense that's just as good, if not better, in Chicago. I expect similar results. Maybe he throws a touchdown this week, maybe he doesn't. But last week was his worst statistical week of the entire season, including week one, where he threw 4 interceptions. Last week was worse than that. So get away from Matthew Stafford. Don't start him unless you really have no other options. And with all the backup quarterbacks that are starting, like the Nick Mullins of the world and whatnot, there's probably a better option on waivers. So yeah, sit Matthew Stafford. The other guy I want to stay away from this week that some people may be high on actually is Andy Dalton. I don't like Andy Dalton this week because there's no AJ Green. Now, again, he's got a great matchup against New Orleans, so there's a possibility that he goes off. But Andy Dalton has 11 games in his career without AJ Green. During those 11 games, he has thrown for an average of 253 yards, one touchdown, and zero point 0.7 interceptions. So obviously, he's struggled without AJ Green. You
Hmm.
know, as I mentioned in my start sit column this week, there are some quarterbacks that elevate their receivers, like the Aaron Rodgers of the world, the Tom Brady's. They turn these like no-name guys into household names, or they take players who are already good and elevate them to the next level. No offense to Andy Dalton, I think he's more a product. I think he's more the opposite. I think has had AJ Green for pretty much his whole career, and that's really elevated Dalton. Now he's playing without him. He historically plays a lot worse. I don't really like him in this matchup. As Ryan mentioned earlier, Gio Bernard will be back this week, so they might be able to lean a little bit more on the running game between Mixon and Bernard. They might throw some more short passes to Mixon and Bernard, which could help boost Dalton's numbers. But with no AJ Green, not for me.
Yeah, great hairstyle, but not great without his number one receiver.
Every time he removes his helmet, I'll tell you what, his hair it looks
Yeah,
like
I wonder if it's like pre-molded in there, so it just keeps that beautiful orange faux hawk in place.
yeah.
It's like the opposite of like the concussion proof. It's the hair proof helmet or something.
There you go.
It's just gorgeous. I'm jealous. So I'm already losing my hair. So, all right, Ummer, some cold quarterbacks for you.
I think I already went over those. I got
Oh, you did.
Stafford.
You did.
Yeah.
Thank you. You went back to back. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Before we move on from quarterbacks, then we'll go quick. But I just want to ask a few questions and kind of the. I know people probably have some questionable starts, kind of. So, for instance, Umar, I'll just ask you: Andrew Luck against the Jaguars defense. You can just give me a straight answer: yes or no. Do you like him or no?
I actually like Andrew Luck.
Yep.
I mean, we talked about this before. They luck.
Sorry, you. We lost a little connection there. So you like him though? You like him against the Jags?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Josh Fitzpatrick against the Redskins. Redskins do have a better defense this year, but you've been high on Fitzy. You like him?
Oh, I love him. Love him against him. Again, they can't run the ball. They're gonna have to throw it. Last week the Redskins were torched by Atlanta. So yeah, love him.
Okay, and yeah, let's just move on then. Those are kind of the two kind of I feel like questionable ones. So great, let's move on to running backs. Josh, we'll keep it with you. Who are some hot starts you got? Well, give me three running backs or so that you
Sure.
like this week.
We'll go through these a little quicker. I like Nick Chubb this week. He's averaging 5.4 yards per attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Great average.
Great average.
Yep. I think he's got a lot of upside this week. I like both running backs in that game, Chubb and Duke Johnson. I think they could both find success. Should be a high scoring game for both sides of the ball. Quick fun stat on Nick Chubb. Target, or I'm sorry, backfield percentage, he is second in the league in touches, only behind Ezekiel Elliott. Again, I included that in my start sit article this week, so I highly suggest checking that out on the website.
Yeah.
No other running back touches the ball more than Nick Chubb, other than Ezekiel Elliott. So he's getting a lot of volume, and I think if he's averaging 5.4 yards per attempt, he'll succeed on volume.
That is
Um,
not to cut you off, but that is just let that sink in. That's more volume than Todd Gurley, than Melvin Gordon. That's crazy. So that's a good stat.
Yeah, no, I mean they may get more actual touches. I
Yeah,
don't want to
that's
represent that. So like Gurley may actually touch the ball more, but on a percentage basis in the backfield, he's getting the highest percentage. So I just don't want anyone to be
yeah, yeah.
confused on that. But yeah, no, I agree, Ryan. The volume's fantastic. David Johnson. I mean, in the beginning of the year, everyone would have thought, of course, we're starting David Johnson every week. He's my number 4 overall pick, number 3 overall pick. But he's been bad. The Arizona offense has been awful. Um, with a new offensive coordinator, though, going into and playing against Kansas City, Kansas City has allowed they're dead last in the league for yards per carry at 5.2, but they're also dead last in the league against receiving to running backs. So with that combination, it's the perfect opportunity for David Johnson, being the good receiver that is out of the backfield. I expect a lot of opportunity there. I don't expect Arizona to put up a lot of points. I expect the Chiefs to just roll over them. But any little success they have, it's gonna come from David Johnson. Um, he's in a perfect opportunity. Love him this week. Consider him a safe running back 2 in PPR because he's going to catch a lot of passes. The last running back I like is Jordan Howard. Umber kind of touched on him earlier as well. Uh, Howard has been a little phased out due to Tariq Cohen becoming more involved in the offense. But the past 3 weeks, Howard has scored. I think he's on a roll. I think he's doing well. If you're in a PPR league, he has scored at least double digits 6 out of 8 weeks. So, he hasn't quite been as good as he was the past 2 years, but he also hasn't really killed you.
Hmm.
He's putting up double digit points most of the time, 6 out of 8 weeks. I think that continues this week. Another solid week. Good floor, double digit points, running back 2, lock him in.
Yeah, I mean, outside of your first round pick, all you can really ask for is consistency and double digit points, and that's, to be honest, what Howard's kind of given you. So, great, Ummer,
Yeah.
your hot starts.
Josh pretty much took all of mine. The only one I'm going to add in is Marlon Mack versus the Jaguars. Surprisingly, the Jaguars have given up the ninth most rushing yards in the league right now with 986, and Marlon Mack has 2 straight games with 20 plus touches and 2 total touchdowns. So he's definitely solidified himself as the lead back after having such a long time with just being out with injuries and relying on the rookie running backs and Naheem Hines and Jordan Wilkins. But he's come back. He's looking strong. And surprisingly, this matchup against the Jaguars is actually good. But yeah, I also like David Johnson. I also like Jordan Howard. So both those guys are good starts this week.
Yeah, Marlon Mack's been kind of a revelation up in Indy. Finally, kind of coming into his form when they drafted him and giving Andrew Luck the much needed running assistance that he's needed over his career. So hopefully that's long term. Just last thing I wanted to mention on David Johnson, then we'll move on to sits. But the hope with him too, I think, is with coming off the bye week, Byron Leftwich having a week, and then now the full bye week to really kind of implement his offense is him just going back to their bread and butter. I mean, what made him so good
Yeah.
was carry out of the backfield, dump off pass to him, give him a little screen pass, give him a little like slant over the middle, and so hopefully they'll go back to that back when Bruce Arians was there that made him just so arguably just as good, if not better than Le'Veon Bell. And we just haven't
Yeah.
seen that this year when they've tried to just run him HB dives up the middle and give him one pass a game, which makes zero sense, Mike McCoy.
Yeah.
And if you can tell, I own
Fun,
him. If you can tell, I own him, so that's why I'm a little frustrated by it.
fun stat on that game, real quick. Not relevant to David Johnson, but Larry Fitzgerald only needs 33 more yards to pass Terrell Owens as second most receiving all time. So I
That's
think
awesome.
that they tried to get. I think they tried to get that to him this game.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
probably get
that
that
makes sense.
early, hopefully, and no one deserves it more than Larry Johnson. We've
Oh,
across our
strong opinion.
website, across our podcast, we've talked about Fitz all the time, and he's just a great guy. So, Josh, you're on the screen. Let's keep it with you. Your cold sits.
Sure. Again, just real quick. We mentioned earlier. First, he should be back this week. Leonard Fournette, but I don't trust him yet. It's his first week back. This year, he's only touched the ball 24 times total. This is week 10. He's had 20 rushes and 4 receptions. That's a one game total for most starting running backs, and we're in week 10. So he hasn't played as much football as I would like for him to have played. They have Carlos Hyde, they have T.J. Yeldon. Yeldon has been pretty successful without Fournette. I think they ease him back in because he's the future for this franchise. He really is. I mean, he's only in his second year. He's very young. There's no point to overwork him in his first game back. So I think that they give him touches, but not a lot. I don't trust him yet. Sit Fournette. The other guy I want to sit in a similar situation, not his first week back, but another big name guy is LaShawn McCoy. I want to sit LaShawn McCoy this week. The only chance I would even consider playing him is in PPR because he will catch some balls out of the backfield, but he's only averaging 3.1 yards per attempt. And again, we talked about that game. It's going to be low scoring. It's two bad teams offensively, whereas defensively they're actually not awful. Both the Bills and the Jets have decent defenses. They can't put any points on the board with their offense. I expect it to be low scoring defensive game. They can stack the box against McCoy because what are they afraid of in the passing game? Nothing. So sit McCoy, sit Fournette. In PPR, if you're really in a bind, I could see starting McCoy as like a flex or running back 2. But I think there are better options out there. I don't want either guy.
Yeah, agree with pretty much all those. Ummer, over to you for the sits.
Yeah, I don't like Leonard Fournette this week either. It's just like sticking 3 guys in a phone booth and expecting him to move. I mean, he's got Fournette, Carlos Hyde, T.J. Yeldon. T.J. Yeldon's 10th in fantasy scoring for running backs right now. So it's like, why would you go away from that production right now? So yeah, don't like Leonard Fournette this week. Adrian Peterson versus the Buccaneers. I know that may seem like a good matchup, but
Mm.
they lost three starting linemen, two of them for season-ending injuries, and
Yeah.
one is just out for a couple weeks. So I don't expect him to be as good as he has with that solid offensive line, surprising offensive line actually. So yeah, I don't like him this week. Capri Bibbs as well. I don't know. I wouldn't start him either. And my last sit would be Mike Davis versus the Rams. I know Chris Carson is questionable coming into this game, but regardless of either of them play, I know the Rams have been more susceptible in the running game compared to the passing game, but I expect the Rams to roll in this game actually. So I don't like Mike Davis this week.
Umar, I like that you said that, by the way, because I completely agree. That's one of those misleading stats. And the reason that they're more susceptible is because teams can't run on them because they have to pass the ball because they get down big. The Rams score a lot of points, so they're stuck passing the ball all game. So
Hmm.
it's one of those things where, like, I know the stat says one thing, but it's a little misleading just due to how the games have to flow. But I
Mm-hmm.
completely agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. Um, I wanted to mention real quick, just because I looked it up. According to Bovada.com, the over/under for that Bills Jets game, 38.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the under all day on that.
Oh,
38.
easily, yeah.
Yeah, all day I'm taking that under. Anyway, so that was just a random little tidbit for some of those degenerates out
I don't
there.
There you go.
I don't know if the Bills score 38 points for the rest of the season. I don't know.
Yeah, that's.
Wow.
I mean, who knows who's starting at quarterback next week? They might have someone just after the grocery store. We might see the next Kurt Warner story. Maybe they get a Hall of Famer out of it. Who knows?
Hey.
Um, okay, last, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions for games. Lions against the Bears, you like Kerryon Johnson at all? I know we said he's probably active and he's going to play. I know it's a tough running Bears defense. You like Kerryon, Ummer?
I He'll play okay, but I don't think he'll be really good as far as giving you points in your fantasy roster. So I'd probably avoid him if you can.
Agreed.
I like him. Yeah, I like him. I like him more in standard than PPR. I like him as a
Yeah.
flex.
There you go. Josh, Tevin Coleman against the Browns. Any love, hate?
Yeah. Yes, I like Tevin Coleman against the Browns. Again, he can. He's a pass catching running back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield and score. I wouldn't expect last week. I wouldn't expect a repeat of that. That was a very big boom, as they say. But I wouldn't call him a bust either. I think he's a flex.
Yes, agreed. And then the last one, Ummer, is your team. Do you like any of the Niners running backs? Breda against the Giants.
I do like Breida this week. I'm not so high on Morris. Unfortunately, they lost Mostert for a season-ending injury. I mean, we talked about that one. That looked really gruesome. Um, but yeah, I actually do like Breida this week as long as he can stay healthy.
Yeah, so he gets hurt every
That's the
game,
problem.
comes off every game for a few plays or something. So, all right, great.
Yeah.
There you have it. Let's go into receivers. Ummer, we'll keep it with you. Your hot receivers. Give me three.
Sure. We already talked about MVS, Marquez Valdez Scantling versus the Dolphins. That's a good start. Also like Allen Robinson this week. Like I said, Darius Slay is not playing, their number one corner. So Allen Robinson, especially now that he's 100% healthy, he should look really good this week against the Lions. Some more underrated starts. I like Adam Humphries versus the Redskins. Adam Humphries currently is averaging 9 targets over his last 3 games, so he's getting more involved compared to Chris Godwin and obviously Deshaun Jackson. But I mean, we've talked about Deshaun Jackson so many times. He's really just, one week he looks great, the next week he looks, amazing. So I don't know about Deshaun Jackson, but Adam Humphries is slowly getting more involved in the offense, especially with Fitzpatrick under center. He's spraying the ball a lot more compared to James Winston. So could see a good game from Adam Humphries. Tyrell Williams versus the Raiders. I mean, I know we like Keenan Allen, obviously. That's an almost instant start, but I expect Tyrell Williams to get a few of these home run balls and really have, be a bit of a lottery ticket play that I think will actually hit this week against the Raiders for sure.
Well, Williams has actually had very good production the last couple weeks, last couple games,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of that, like you mentioned, is predicated on that home run ball. But I think he's still getting 3 to 6, targets a game, and then he's always in the deep ball. So yeah, I like Tyrell Williams a lot, especially against the Raiders.
Yeah. Keyword right there versus the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, whoever you have against the Raiders, just start him, just throw him in there.
Uh,
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I'll tell you. I hope you're wrong about that one, Umar, because I'm going against Tyrell Williams in a very important matchup for me. So.
oh, gotcha.
No, but I mean, I completely agree with your analysis of it. I just hope it's not his week. Like another guy that I like this week, I like Tyler Boyd a lot. Now, I like Boyd. I still dislike Dalton, but that doesn't mean I can't like Boyd. I like Boyd a lot without AJ Green there. Boyd already has more yards this year than he has in either of his first two seasons, and he has more touchdowns than both of those seasons combined. I would certainly consider this a quote unquote third year breakout for Tyler Boyd. I think this is his real test to see if he can step up and be the number one guy with AJ Green out. Dalton will certainly be looking for him down the field. I think he has a great opportunity ahead of him. It's just a matter of whether or not he takes advantage of it, and I think he can. Another guy this week that I like, a little bit underrated in PPR specific format, would be Danny Amendola.
Mm.
So if you're in standard, Amendola really has been putting up a lot of yards. His high this year is 84, but then after that, his high is like 59, 47, 49. So in standard formats, maybe shy away from him. But in PPR, Amendola has a decent relationship with Brock Osweiler. The past 3 or 4 weeks, he's caught five, five, six, and eight
Mm-hmm.
catches. So if you're in a PPR league, maybe some of your guys are on bye or you're affected by injuries, plug in Danny Amendola as a sneaky play. He's been very, very reliable. So he's someone who I wouldn't mind sticking in if you're in a bind.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. It's been reliable. It's just very, like we mentioned, Philip Rivers model consistency, but he hasn't had that like
Yeah.
blow up game. That's kind of how Amendola's been. I did want to
Right.
just throw a little tidbit on that Cincy game, and this is more for someone if you're looking for just a super cheap option in DFS to pad your other players, or if you're desperate maybe on the waiver wire last minute and you just have a lot of buys. John Ross could be interesting. I think he's missed the last 5 games. I
Yeah.
believe he's expected to play today.
Hmm.
Still that home run hitter. He's going to have 2 to 4 targets probably is it. But in a game where AJ Green's out, this is as good a game as ever to actually throw him in there and kind of keep those fingers crossed. I'm not saying I necessarily recommend it, but it could be a sneaky sleeper that could pay dividends.
Yeah, good tournament DFS play.
There
Or
you
if
go.
you're, if you're down big and you need a guy with a lot of upside, he's a Tyrell Williams, a Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah. Or if you're me in Dynasty and started Carolina's defense, so I'm starting off Sunday -9, and I just
Oh,
need
Oh,
basically I'm starting off with a loss, so I just need to throw in my Hail Marys. Maybe that's your
yep,
option too.
yep.
Yeah, how
yeah.
devastating is that? Get off work Thursday, and I'm like, great, I'm playing the first place guy. I'm kind of excited. I'm in like third right now overall, looking
Hmm.
good, and I'm starting off -9. So
Ah,
I didn't even know you could
that
get
hurts.
freaking -9. I thought -6 was the cutoff. Unbelievable.
That
Okay, cold sits. Josh, stick it with you.
Okay, so for sits this week, I'm gonna sit. I want to sit Jordy Nelson, another guy who in the past, big name guy, every week start, just hasn't been so good this year. With Amari Cooper gone, I really thought that he was going to step up and his performances would start to get better. He'd get the ball more often. Hasn't been the case. The past 3 weeks in a row, he's had two, one, and two catches for under 20 yards every single game. I mean, that's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
That entire offense, is a dumpster fire. I would stay away from Oakland. I would stay away from everyone in Oakland. There's only one player I would even consider starting in Oakland. That's Jared Cook, but I don't like him either, and we'll talk about that when we get to tight ends. So Jordy Nelson, stay away. Even if you're desperate, I wouldn't go there because it's just going to disappoint you.
Yeah, the hard
Um,
thing with him, sorry, Josh, is that last week
yeah.
they were down the entire game to the 49ers. They were literally an aerial assault all game and still
Mhm.
zero production. So if they can't get him involved down to the Niners, uh, then yeah, stay away from him against the Chargers for sure. When I'm sure Casey Howard's going to be the one, or Casey Hayward, excuse me, is going to want covering him.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. Last week was a perfect game script for Nelson to do something, and two catches.
Yeah,
So
there you have
I don't like him. I'm not huge on Doug Baldwin this week. I know they have a tough matchup against the Rams. They're probably going to have to throw the ball, but Russell Wilson's volume is my concern for his receivers. He's really not throwing the ball a lot. He did last week, but the few weeks prior than that, he was throwing for like 20 passes a game, 22, 23. Now in those games, he's throwing for 3 touchdowns a game. So his efficiency, Russell Wilson's always been a very efficient quarterback. He's just the volume isn't always there, and they may try to run the ball a little more. I don't expect it to be successful, but I know they're going to try it. It's a tough secondary between the two. Honestly, between Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, I prefer Tyler Lockett if you wanted to play any receiver this week. which is something I didn't think I was going to say in the beginning of the year. But Tyler Lockett has
Yeah.
been the more consistent of the two. So I'm staying away from Doug Baldwin unless you don't have any other options.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, Tyler Lockett's been consistent as we keep kind of harping, and Doug Baldwin really hasn't done much since he's been back from injury. So we'll see when if
It's a
he
shame.
yeah, we'll see if he ever has that breakout game. But I don't expect it against the Rams in LA. Ummer?
Yeah, those are good sits for me. The ones I would add in would be we already talked about it, but Matthew Stafford's is it. I'm also sitting Marvin Jones versus the Bears. I think a lot of the coverage is going to be going towards his direction, so he may get a garbage score later in the game, but I don't expect him to have a really good game versus the Bears. Golden Tate in his first week suiting up for the Eagles. I don't like him this week. I know he had the bye week for extra week of preparation, but I think there's just so many weapons in that Eagles offense now as far as the passing game is concerned that I don't think he'll get a good enough target share this week. Maybe he'll get more involved as the season goes on and they'll get more ways to use him. But yeah, this first week, I don't expect him to do all that well. Amari Cooper versus the Eagles. I know he had a good week against the Titans, but I don't expect him to replicate that against the Eagles. A lot of people are high on Corey Davis versus the Patriots, but I am not. I mean, like I said, I don't think the Titans' offense is going to replicate what they did last week against the Cowboys. I think they're just going to be,
Yeah.
so-so, if anything, not good at all. So I don't expect Corey Davis to go off against the Patriots. He's going to draw the coverage to Stephon Gilmore, who's a really good shutdown corner anyways. So I expect Gilmore to win that matchup more often than Corey Davis will. And my last one is Maurice Harris. A lot of people are high on his hype train as well in Washington. Maybe he'll have a good game, but nowhere near double-digit reception for 100 yards sort of game. I mean,
Right.
maybe more of like 4 or 5 for like maybe 60 at the most. But yeah, not a guy you can rely on to win your week this week. So I would sit Maurice Harris.
Yeah, that's a good one. Great. Well, anything else to add for receivers, or should we just move on to tight ends?
No, I like everything Ummer said. The only comment I would make is I agree. I'm never high on Corey Davis, but I think that there's a chance that volume could be there for him, and Mariota is
That's
starting to
true.
look for him a little more often. He doesn't seem to be. He doesn't have a very limited route tree. Davis can pretty much do anything. He can go deep. He can catch short little passes. In the flat, he can catch him over the middle. So he could walk into some volume work. But if the Patriots focus on him, I agree. I don't expect a big game from him. I think a sneaky play could actually be Tajay Sharp if they because Belichick they can take away whoever they want. They do
Yeah.
it every week. They
Mm-hmm.
focus on one guy. They take that guy away. If they make that guy Corey Davis, Tajay Sharp could be a sneaky play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Tajay Sharp is actually questionable coming into this game, so I don't know if he's even going to play.
Well, we'll see.
Okay, yeah,
If he
might
plays,
have to
it's
look at
sneaky.
that.
Um,
Yeah,
I don't want to stay on this long, so we need to move on. But Corey Davis,
you're
I
right.
was I was high on him out of college. Just curious your guys'
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. Do you think he is being held back by Mariota, or is it your classic small school guy that just hasn't been able to make the leap to the NFL as much as we would have hoped?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. I think he's definitely being held back by Mariota. He has a lot of talent, but talent doesn't always translate onto the field. I mean, see Amari Cooper, for example. He was good his first 2 years, but he's just completely fallen off. Guys like Laquan Treadwell,
Mm.
so highly talented. Josh Doxson,
Yeah, that entire
for
draft
example.
class.
Yeah, I mean, Cord, yeah, yeah. But he has the ability. I don't want to call him a bust just yet, but yes, I don't think Mariota's the right quarterback to help him fulfill his potential. So a little bit of both. Don't want him.
God, yeah. I was just curious because I was high on him out of college, being the fifth overall pick, and he's only in year two, so obviously things can change. But
Yeah.
yeah, curious on that. So okay, moving over to tight ends. Josh, we'll just stay with you. Who two tight ends you're loving this week that aren't the big three we talk about every week?
Sure, sure. I like David Njoku this week. He's got a good matchup, as we said, against Atlanta. I think they're gonna, Cleveland's probably gonna be down. I expect Atlanta to have the lead early. They're gonna have to throw the ball. Njoku has been. We keep trying to hammer home the concept of consistency. Other than a dud in week, what was it, 8, I believe. Njoku's been great. He's had like 4 or 5 catches every single week. And then he got right back on track in week 9 with 4 catches for 59 yards. And unless you have one of those big three guys, that's really all you can ask for out of your tight end. I
Hmm.
mean, we would love our tight ends to score. We would love our tight ends to put up highlight reel numbers, but that's just not realistic at the position. So if you can get 4 catches for 53 yards in PPR, or like 9 or 10 points, that's fine. That's all you need out of your tight end. You'll take that all day. Give me David Njoku. The other guy that I'm really high on this week, it's actually one of two guys, Jordan Reed slash Vernon Davis. I believe Reed is going to play. Now he's questionable because he's got that hip injury, I believe. And Jordan Reed's kind of like Gronk. He's always a little questionable. We never really know if he's going to play. And then even if he does play, is he going to finish the game? Is he going to leave? Is he going to get hit a little too hard and have to leave the game? If Jordan Reed can play all day, I like him a lot. Against Tampa Bay, they've allowed the second most fantasy points to tight ends this year. Um, with losing the 3 offensive linemen, Washington isn't going to be able to run the ball, similar to what Elmer was talking about. Doesn't like Adrian Peterson this week. They're going to have to throw it. And I think that Jordan Reed is going to benefit greatly from that. If he can't play, then I love Vernon Davis as a sneaky pick. I actually picked him up in one of my leagues. I was stuck at tight end, so I just grabbed Vernon Davis, stuck him in there. He has played with Alex Smith in the past. Vernon Davis, I believe, said that this is the best he's seen him, or that they have a better connection than they used to have. I forget the exact quote, but he was talking about he believes in Alex Smith. The two of them have some chemistry. So if something were to happen to Jordan Reed, monitor that situation right up to kickoff. If he's not able to play, stick in Vernon Davis. Whoever plays should have a great day.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Interesting situation there as we hopefully they announce Reed's availability here in the next few
Right.
minutes, but haven't heard yet. But yeah, I like either of those tight ends as well. Ummer?
I like CJ Zuma versus the Saints, Evan Ingram versus the Niners, also obviously George Kittle versus the Giants, and Jack Doyle actually versus the Jaguars. It's so weird to keep knocking on this Jaguars defense, but they've surrendered 9 passing touchdowns all year, which may seem good, but 6 of them have come in the last 3 games, which is bad. So I like Jack Doyle coming back. He's finally healthy. He'll be really good this week.
Perfect. Yeah. Stay right with you. Go with your sits.
Jared Cook versus the Chargers. I mean, I know it seems like he's the best passing option in that offense, but this is his stat line in the past 3 games: 8 receptions, 104 yards, 1 touchdown. So pretty poor. I think he's finally on the downward trend right now. Similar, as I said, I like Jack Doyle, so that means Eric Ebron is a sit. I don't think he's going to be as effective now. And Ben Watson versus the Bengals.
Okay. There you have it. Josh, sits.
I like Jared Cook as a sit. Like Ummer said, he hasn't topped 20 yards in 3 of his past 4 games. Similar to Jordy Nelson, I'd stay away from that whole offense.
Yeah.
Give me Evan Ingram as a sit. He's only averaged 31 yards per game in 2018. That's not good enough to start. It's a crowded offense. We got Barkley, you got Beckham, you got Shepard, and Eli Manning is clearly on his way out. He can't support that many guys. So every week there's going to be at least one guy who misses out, and I think it's usually going to be Ingram. With Beckham and Barkley, as I said. So I don't trust Ingram at all. He's got a really bright future ahead of him. I think when they can get a new quarterback in there. But for the rest of 2018, I'm not high on Ingram at all. And the last guy I want to sit, even though I know Umar was high on him last week, is Chris Herndon. Chris Herndon, again, he can fall in the end zone for you. He's caught 3 touchdowns in the past 4 weeks. That's great, for a guy who no one had really known his name coming into this year. He was a waiver wire guy, but his volume, he's just not getting the volume. If he doesn't catch the touchdown, he's giving you nothing. He's giving you like 2 catches for 20 yards, which, as we've discussed with Jared Cook, Evan Ingram, that's not the kind of thing you want from your tight end. He has been scoring, so maybe he can find his way into the end zone again. But we've talked about that game multiple times. I expect it to be low scoring. I expect both teams, pardon me, both offenses not to put up many points. He just doesn't have the volume needed. So sit Chris Herndon for me.
Yeah. Real quick, before we move on, Josh, you had Ingram as a sit. Ummer, you had
Yep.
Ingram as a start. Let's hear it. Let's hear the debate. Ummer, we'll start with you. Why do you think this week's different against your Niners?
Yeah, no, against my Niners, exactly. The reason I like Evan Ingram this week is because Odell Beckham will probably draw the coverage from Richard Sherman, and Richard Sherman has actually been playing really well this year, so I expect him to shut it down. against Odell Beckham. I still think Odell Beckham is so talented that he will be a good fantasy start this week still, but I think he'll draw a lot of Richard Sherman's attention. I know Barkley is obviously going to get involved, but the Niners don't have good coverage as far as the middle of the field is concerned. They have so many injuries. The safeties are always swapping in every single week. Linebackers are not so good in coverage. So I expect Evan Ingram to utilize that middle of the field, maybe get a red zone touchdown against the Niners as well. So maybe he won't have such a great stat line, but maybe a reception line of like maybe a stat line of like maybe, 3 or 4 receptions, 40 to 50 yards, and then one score, which could lead to like, possibly 12 to 13 fantasy points.
Yeah. Josh, rebuttal?
No, I mean that's possible, but I want to point out two things. One, San Francisco has not allowed a touchdown to a tight end since week 4, so they've actually been really good against tight ends. Other than the first couple weeks of the season, they've stepped their game up over the middle of the field. Secondly, Eli Manning, I don't believe he's not going to look for Ingram. He's not his first option. He's not his second option. Maybe he's the third option. I wouldn't even know if he's the third option. He may not be the fourth. He doesn't have time to go through that many progressions because the Giants' offensive line is so poor that he's going to be under duress. You got to have more faith in your team, man. They're gonna get to Eli. I think they're gonna get to him. I think he's gonna be sacked early and often. I think he's gonna be under pressure. He's gonna have to get the ball away quickly. He's not gonna have time to go through Odell to Shepard to Barkley to Ingram. So I don't think Ingram gets enough looks to have decent production.
Yeah, and I see both sides as well. My reservation for starting Ingram, so I would probably have him as a sit as well, would just be that's why we've seen, I think, Barkley be such a revelation in fantasy, is just those dump off passes because Manning has no time. So it's, the drop back and then just I'm getting chased by 4 guys, so let me just dump it off here to Barkley. But hey, hopefully for your sake, that's actually true. That'd be better for you.
No, believe me, as a Niner fan, I'd love for everybody to be shut down this week. I mean, that's my ultimate goal. But just thinking realistically, like I said, this is something that could happen. Like I said, the Niners defense is not so great. I mean, I love the stat you poured out there, Josh, but yeah, it's just something that I see possibly happen.
Yeah, well, and a 3 to 4 catch, 1 touchdown, 40-yard stat line is definitely not unrealistic. And with the state of the tight end position we have in the NFL today, if you can get 9 or more points, you're ecstatic. So, outside of like Ertz or Kelsey, great. Okay, well, give me Umar, just stay with you. Just give me 2 defenses you love and 1 defense you hate.
I like the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Cardinals. Cardinals have scored the second least amount of points in the league, so that should be a pretty good start for the Chiefs. As mentioned, I like the Patriots versus the Titans, and I like the Jets over the Bills, actually, as far as defensive starts. As far as my sits are concerned, I don't like the Cowboys versus the Eagles. Eagles are only giving up 19.5 points per game currently, which is actually pretty good. As I mentioned so far this whole show, Jaguars defense has been pretty poor, so I don't like them versus the Colts, and the Redskins defense versus the Buccaneers offense. Excuse me.
There you go, Josh.
Umar pretty much took all mine. I'm going to be honest with you.
There you go.
Yeah, we've said it a bunch of times. Jets, Buffalo, take either one. They're both great starts. I'd be okay starting Kansas City against Arizona, even though they give up the most rushing to the game yards in the league. Rather, I expect David Johnson to have a good day, but he's literally the only one. For sits, I want to sit the Titans. They've been a good defense throughout the year, but not against the Patriots. So you can't start anybody against the Patriots. Pardon me. I want to sit Cleveland. They're a young and upcoming defense. I expect them to be very good. We talked about it early in the season. They could be a surprise top 10 defense, and I think they're on their way there. But again, they have a tough matchup against Atlanta. Sit them and sit the Cowboys against Philly.
Well, there you have it. There's our position-by-position breakdown. So now I want to get into some questions. I got some live ones that came in, and then also we'll go through some other ones that I've found and heard throughout the week. Kind of a surprising question, but maybe relevant. Amr, I'll give it to you. Or actually, no, let's go to Josh since he's the Cowboys fan. So Zeke or
right.
Deion Lewis? It's PPR. Says he has Hunt as his other back. Kareem Hunt, that is. Josh?
I'm sorry. You cut out there for a second.
Oh, no, yeah. No, so Zeke or Deion Lewis? Kind of an interesting question, but, we'll answer it. It's PPR. He has Hunt as his other back.
Oh no, I mean you got to go Zeke. I do like Dion Lewis a lot this week. I think he has a shot in especially in PPR, but you can't. Zeke's one of those players that don't get cute. You got your guys like Zeke, Gurley, Hunt. These top running backs. Just even James Conner at this point.
Yeah,
I would consider him one of those guys.
Melvin Gordon.
Barring what happens with Le'Veon, Melvin Gordon, right? Just don't get cute. It's possible. Guys like a guy like Dion Lewis could blow up and have 20 points, but you can't sit guys like Zeke and Hunt. Just don't get cute. Start your studs.
Yeah, don't.
Maybe if you've got a flex spot, stick Dion Lewis in the flex. He's probably better than whoever you have there.
Yeah, don't be like Scott Linehan and decide to bench Zeke when he's playing so well, just like he did
Oh.
last week. What was he in the first quarter? Like 60 or 70 yards, and all of a sudden he didn't touch the ball in the
He
second
had
half.
like six. He had like 60 yards in the first half, and no more than that, maybe 70 all-purpose yards in the first half, and in the second half they just completely went away from him. It's frustrating.
Yeah. I hear. I mean, being a Broncos fan, I hear you. We like to abandon the run as well, but we also don't have
Yeah.
Zeke. Interesting. So okay, moving on. Carson Wentz or Patrick Mahomes?
Ooh, really? I think Patrick Mahomes has become a starter every single week, and especially this week against the Cardinals, who have a good defense. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes is just so amazing this year that yeah, I like him over Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I think I agree. Josh, this is an interesting question that we would never even think we'd have early in the season, but it's actually relevant today. Fournette or Eckler?
Ooh. Yeah, that is a tough one. Give me Austin Eckler. Give me Austin Eckler. I just don't trust Fournette yet in his first week back. That is a hard one, but again, I think the Chargers could get ahead, and I think there's a possibility that they could just stick to the ground game. By the end of the game, they may even start resting Melvin Gordon and swapping in and out Gordon and Eckler a little more often than usual. So I think I could see Eckler getting some good points off volume because they're so far ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And he's actually been being, considering he's behind the number 2 or 3 running back in fantasy, he still has actually been productive. Eckler, that is, being behind
Yeah,
Melvin Gordon, which is surprising. That's just how potent I think that offense is. That, like you mentioned earlier, never gets talked about, but it's a top 5 offense. Um,
right.
okay, this Chris Carson or Mike Davis. We don't even know if Carson's going to play, but I'll let you give your 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Mike Davis or Chris Carson, but as I mentioned earlier, I don't like either against the Rams this week.
Yeah, if you have other options, try to go with that. Josh, Brady or Luck?
Ooh. Um, I would honestly say I'd have to go with Luck. To be honest, Luck's put up. He's been putting up more numbers than Brady. I mean, their Marlon Mack has been great, and they're facing the Jags. It's a tough matchup, but Brady has a tough matchup too. I mean, the Tennessee defense has been better than people give them credit for. It's just their offense that's lagging behind. They're having a harder time putting up points, but their defense has been solid. So, solid quarterbacks against two tough defenses. Give me Andrew Luck.
Yeah, and I think the Patriots' offense overall has looked good, but Brady has been steadily declining week to week and has not been that fantasy must start every week. So yeah, I like Luck as
Right,
well.
right.
Um,
And
Amr,
also throw in this fact that AJ Bouye is not playing for the Jaguars this week, so Andrew Luck can take advantage of that.
there you go. That
Yeah.
helps as well. Um, Amr, Mark Ingram or Tariq Cohen?
I like Tariq Cohen just based on the matchup that they're playing the Lions, and I know he did not have such a good game last week and the week before, but even with Jordan Howard playing well, I like Tariq Cohen against the Lions compared to Mark Ingram versus the Bengals.
Y-
I'll take the opposite on that.
Okay.
I like Ingram only because I see this as a Jordan Howard game because they're probably not going to need to throw the ball that often as the game goes on in the second half. I think they can just pound it with Howard. So I just think it's game script, kind of like the past couple weeks. Howard's been better than Cohen just due to game script, and sticking with the concept of game script. I think that New Orleans could get ahead and run on Cincinnati, and I think we've seen Kamara get the goal line work in the past couple weeks, but I still think Ingram is the guy there. I think I could see him getting 12 to 15 rushes, and then Drew. That's why I'm a little weary of Drew Brees this week too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
As much as I love Drew Brees, I could see this being more of a running game for New Orleans. So I'll take Ingram.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Ingram is if he cannot fumble on his second or third carry. He's done that back-to-back weeks
Yeah.
now, and then all of a sudden they don't
Hmm.
give him the ball for a whole quarter or two. So
Right,
hold
right.
on to the rock, and maybe he'll get rewarded with some goal line carries, and instead of giving it to
Yeah,
the 5'9", 180 Alvin Kamara. But you know,
right.
obviously, I have him in a league, so there's the bitterness. All right, Amr, I'll stay with you. PPR league: Jarvis Landry or Nick Chubb?
I mean, Jarvis Landry has not looked as great as he did earlier in the season, and definitely we could see that with Greg Williams as a head coach, he wants to involve the running backs a lot more. So Duke Johnson Jr. is a good play, and yeah, definitely Nick Chubb is a great play.
Perfect. Okay. Josh, ooh, this is a tough one. LaShawn McCoy
Good.
or Peyton Barber?
I'm sorry. What was that? McCoy or Barber?
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy or Peyton Barber.
Gosh. I get. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Ugh, I'm gonna split it here. I'm gonna say PPR go McCoy, standard go Barber.
Okay, there you go.
I'm intrigued by the
Man,
rest of that roster if they have McCoy and
yeah,
Barber.
Yeah,
that's
hopefully they're stacked at the receiver position. I'm hoping.
Exactly.
Um,
that's a tough one.
okay, let's see. Here's a
Yeah.
longer one. So Ummer, all right, I'll try to say it slow. So he needs to flex two.
Okay.
James White, Mark Ingram, as we mentioned, Aaron Jones, or Chubb. Standard league.
Standard league. Okay,
Standard
that
league. So
that.
needs two of those four. White, Ingram,
Okay.
Jones, or Chubb.
I'd probably say Chubb and Mark Ingram. I know I just said that, I liked God, who was against Mark Ingram in the last one?
Tariq Cohen.
Tariq Cohen. Yeah, I know I like Tariq Cohen, but that's once again because this is a standard league. I think Mark Ingram finds the other ones, and I think with Nick Chubb, since he's more of a runner compared to a pass catcher. Yeah, I like Chubb and Mark Ingram as far as the standard league is concerned. If it was PPR, it would be hands down James White for sure, and then I'd probably also go with Aaron Jones. So I'd actually do the opposite.
Yeah. I think that James White, how great as he's been in PPR, I think he's still been a good standard start, but definitely way lesser down the scale. So it actually makes your decision making a lot more important with him in standard leagues. But all right, we'll do a couple more here. Josh, this is actually a really good one. Calvin Ridley or your boy MVS?
Ridley versus MVS.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Give me MVS. I like him a lot. I think it's both high-powered offenses, both good quarterbacks, both should be in a positive game script for throwing the ball. But I think MVS has the better opportunity. He's going to be opposite. I'm having a brain moment here.
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams. Yeah, sorry. as, as much as I love Devontae Adams, by the way, he's in my dynasty league.
Yeah.
I think MVS is a great option this week.
There you go. All right, let's do one more each. Okay, so our last one for quarterbacks: Breeze or Trubisky?
I think because of the talent level there, Trubisky has been able to luck into a few good fantasy games, but just based on recency bias and consistency, Drew Brees against the Bengals.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Here's one just actually for me, for my own team: Trubisky or Carson Wentz.
Once again, I think I'd go with Carson Wentz because he has so
Yeah,
many more weapons to throw the ball to. He is going to be able to spread the ball and just be so much more dynamic than, his MVP caliber season last year. So, yeah, I'd pick Wentz over Trubisky this week.
Yeah, and I like
I agree.
I hope they get Golden Tate involved, which obviously that will help Wentz out as well. Okay, so then last one for you, Josh. Let's see. I got a couple here. I'm debating between. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go on. T.Y. Hilton or Marvin Jones, full PPR.
Um, Give me T.Y. Hilton. I do expect, as kind of like we said earlier, I like in the debate between Luck and Brady. I like Luck this week. I think Luck he trusts T.Y. Hilton. He's going to throw him the ball often. I do expect it to be some tough matchups, but I expect Hilton to win out. So give me Ty.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, AJ Bouye should be out for that game. So obviously you still have Jalen Ramsey, but that could, he might not be on every single play. So I like Hilton well. Well, there you have it. Another edition of Fantasy Al Dente, your recipe for your fantasy football team. Thanks for tuning in. As we did earlier, if you tuned in late, we go through our DFS lineups brought to you by DraftKings. Each of us three put together our hopeful winning lineup. I have posted those lineups on Twitter, on Facebook, or on Instagram. All of them on our account at Sports Al Dente. Very easy to find. So go ahead and go take a look at those. Gentlemen, anything else before we sign off?
Happy week 10.
Yeah, good luck.
Well, there you have it, guys. So, as always, appreciate you. Have a very wonderful Sunday. Good luck to all. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, fellas.